Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats for part 2. We'll continue with a lot of equipment here on the table. We've changed the rounds. We got some new stuff. We got some more old equipment. And before we continue with the introduction of our guests, we have to thank our sponsors for a second, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. So we get some support from Sennheiser. They give us some nice mics. From Jägermeister, they gave us some booze. And from Adidas, and they gave us some shoes. So what more can you ask for? Yeah.
Not me.
So, on my left, I have Mr. Ian Pooley. He's the one who's not only running his label Pooled Music, but he's also bridging the gap between the mainstream and the underground. I hope that's fair to say, between the Ministry of Sound and Innovisions.
Yeah.
You've been around for decades producing music, mostly for clubs, but you've also done a lot of albums.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ian Pooley, give it up for him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then to my right, I have Matthew Dekay. And I'm very happy that you're here, despite feeling a little cold. So I'm happy that you made it.
Feel a little bit shitty, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
It's okay.
So you've actually covered the globe as well, not only with your club nights, but also with the music that you produce on your label. You delivered the soundtrack for the Lost in a Moment parties with the tune that goes by the same name. And you've covered.
You don't want to say the title.
What?
It goes by the name.
It goes by the name of Lost in a Moment. And you will present us a little machine as a first person. Yeah, something new. And to my right, I also have Frank Wiedemann, who's 50% of the duo Arm, who also runs the label Innovisions. He's also 50% of the project Howling, and also produces...
I'm always 50% of everything.
Except for your solo project. And he's not only my neighbor, but he also became a father. So give it up for Frank Wiedemann.
Picture.
So that was 50% of your applause, by the way.
Yeah, where's my applause?
You get it because you start.
I start?
Yeah, you start. So what did you bring us?
I just figured out, by the way, that this is like the Innovisions panel now, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Damn, again.
Yeah. So,
Matthew, you brought us.
It's the new Electron Rhythm. It's a drum computer. 8 voice, analog, and I think the interesting thing about it is that it's a hybrid, because it also can read like samples. There's a 1 gigabyte hard drive in it. So the thing that I really like about it is because you can load in these samples and still use like the analog circuitry. So you can really sort of like distort the sound in an analog way. The filters are also really good in this machine. So I kind of felt like when I bought this that I don't really need a lot of other stuff. Just my laptop and this, and I think that's going to be my setup for the next half a year.
How long have you been working with it?
I don't trust you.
We have to say that you're quite a tech geek yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, we always talk about gear, and actually, I mean, he said that he was cured of the whole eBay thing when he got this lovely baby, and I was like, I don't really believe it. And like 1 week later, he sent me a picture of like, look at this gear, this looks amazing, a new Abbey Road thing. So yeah, I don't know. All gear addicts, I think. Ian.
Same for me, all the time.
So
How did you bump into this? Was it introduced to you by another person, or how did you decide to
No.
get it?
I mean, I think sometimes we all know what's up, and like we always stay on forums and stuff like Gear Sluts and all these websites. So like that's where we find our information. And I just I saw the specifications. I already had the machine drum before as well, so the learning curve was not quite as steep. And I just really like I connect with the sound. I mean, I kind of wish that it also loads because it can only load mono samples. So it would be really great if it could load stereo samples as well. But yeah, maybe an update, maybe one day. But yeah, shall I play something a
Sure.
little bit? Let me see if there's... So the interesting thing also is like there's a performance mode. So what you can basically do is that the pads are touch sensitive and have aftertouch as well. So you can basically assign any parameter to these to these pads. So the great thing is like it becomes more of a the aftertouch becomes sort of like a performance tool. So you can really mute things like here and build slowly with the pressure. You can change the
Maybe in the beginning we should actually explain the geography of the machine, because
that's gonna
quickly,
take 2 hours.
But just for there are a lot of flashy buttons on there, so maybe you can just explain before we see them all flashing.
We can see it here. Yeah. So yeah, basically here are just the normal pads like you have on the famous MPC. The nice thing about it as well, it has still like the normal TR grid. It's not really one. That's the only thing. I mean, there's not really one function per knob. So that's a little bit of a. It has a steep learning curve. All these buttons as well. It's not really one function either. So it's kind of like I don't really know where to start like explaining the actual layout, because. Yeah, it's a lot of features. But basically here, when you select a sound, let's say we select a kick drum here, you can actually tweak the sound. I mean, when we go to synth here, we can actually change the parameters to tuning. And you can also parameter lock that to the actual grid, so you can really make interesting bass lines out of it as well. There's a chromatic mode as well, so you can play melodies with the actual kick drum. So, it's a drum computer, but I feel like it's a lot more. I mean, it's also a really great bass synthesizer. So,
how do you implement it into your setup? Obviously, you have a lot of equipment, and what kind of functions does this take?
My main sequencer is Ableton, so I use that. I send out a clock message to this machine, which is that works now. Is it in here?
Yeah.
So, which is a clock just to sync up the actual machine, because it's possible to do it with via USB, but I find it a little bit like tricky sometimes, especially the Ableton clock as well. It's not really like steady. It goes everywhere. So all your machines, like they all dance a little bit with Ableton, and this machine really locks it into a grid, and I'm able to, if I use, let's say, the Octatrack next to it, also a similar machine, I can shift, just like it's basically like a turntable. You can just, make one machine go a little bit ahead of the bar, you can really sync it up. Properly, and things stay locked into the groove. So which is really nice.
How do you start working with it? What's the first thing that you usually do? Come up with a drum pattern, or do you do the layout of your drums?
I never really. I mean, for me, I come from like a more classical background, so for me, I always start with just writing a song. The same with Lost in the Moment, for example. I mean, that was just me playing live, and just, there was music, and then suddenly I was like, okay, well, it needs to be a dance track. So it's always
you edited
like
2 hours of material into 10 minutes, or?
Yeah, that's how I usually work, and or like I don't know. I always think, I like to capture a performance. So for me, that's really important, and I think that's also the way I like to work with this as well, because you start with the kick drum and you end up with a completely different sound that is not anything like a kick drum anymore. So I really like to, just play around, and then you have like half an hour of recordings, and then just like cut the things out that sound great, or the little mistakes that that make something special.
You load in all your music or your samples into there, or do you use some of the library sounds as well?
This is fairly new as well, but I've decided, because I had a lot of other drum computers, like the MFB stuff, and like a 909 and all the famous drum computers. And I figured that I'm a little bit bored with the standard like sounds. So we all have like massive sample libraries, and I tweaked everything to the way I like it. I never liked the stock 909 sound anyway. I always EQ'd everything and compressed it, and make it sound like something that doesn't really sound like a standard. Like,
how much time does it usually take in the production process to get the sounds where you want them to be?
Yeah, that's really hard. I don't really keep track. I just disappear in music, and I don't really, I have absolutely no clue. Suddenly I realized that, my girlfriend is then like, did you pee? Did you actually eat? And I'm just sitting there like fully, like with a dry mouth, still like working. And I just, I wish that I could tell you how long it takes.
Get lost in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, always. Yeah.
I won't repeat that again.
So
okay. So maybe now we can come to the flashy buttons and can play a little bit on it.
Yeah, I don't have much programmed yet. Ian had the same problem as well. We didn't really prepare so much for it, but I could maybe load up something from scratch and just see if we can maybe make something. Do we have enough time? Actually?
Yeah. I think we
all right.
have enough time.
You need some food?
Just going here for a standard kick. So the nice thing about it is that you can really record all these parameter changes. So
maybe you can explain what you're actually doing. That would be interesting.
So what I recorded now is basically you can record the tune changes. So basically what it does, it records actually every move that I make here on the, let me see if that makes any sense. So as you can see, you can really get carried away in this thing. I just started off with a kick drum, and I could easily just change it into, this is just one channel, basically. It's the same kick drum, but just like, I don't really know where to start next.
All good.
You can also do that with the effects, everything, but what I really liked was with the reverb and everything.
It has a reverb in it and also a delay, but it's just like one delay and one reverb, so it's shared over the rest, over all the patterns, over all the pads. So all the sounds, so it's not really, it's quite limited, but with the parameter locks, locking everything into the grid, you can really get deep with the machine and really create interesting things that you don't do on a conventional, like sampler or analog drum.
Do you have any other favorite pieces of equipment that are essential to your setup? Or does it change on a weekly?
It changes weekly, yeah. It's sort of a disease, I think. Basically half of what Craigslist is offering right now online is probably either me or him. Not really. I think, the more, there's one, I think the UAD plugins these days, it's like Universal Audio, they have these, DSP-based plugins, and I think that is really something I could not live without. The rest, it's just toys, and I like to use it, and then when I'm done with it, I just sell it.
But is there anything
Not
that
like him collecting it. Okay.
But is there what does the machine qualify for you to be there for a longer time?
Well, I don't think we need anything anymore. It sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but for me, Ableton and UAD plugins, that is something that I need to make music. But a lot of the music has been written like that as well, like that I released. So. Yeah, these are just toys. It's just fun.
So as a classically trained musician, you don't need knobs?
Well, I would need like a master keyboard, but other than that, I don't really feel like. I think we're pretty much there now, which is great because when I started, we needed like at least for let's say 30,000 euros of equipment, and you didn't even have the best equipment out there. And I'm really jealous at kids today. They just get like a laptop with these great sounding plugins, and they can give it a shot, if they. And for me, it was a big risk, I really had to go to the bank and get a loan, and not even sure if I was going to release music, so a really big risk. So I think, these days it's really nice. I mean, to me, all these machines, it's nice, but it's tools just to keep it fun, and sometimes you just want to have a little bit of a change, but I think with Ableton and just give me Ableton and UAD plugins, and I'm good. Yeah.
So how do you approach a new toy when it comes? Do you actually read the manual, or do you just try it out?
Yeah, I actually do. Yeah. I just download it, put it on my iPad, and just on the plane, and just read it, and that's how I do it. Yeah.
So you have more the academic
video
approach.
tutorials as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe you should do one yourself. An audio or a video tutorial.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I just got this one actually, so it's still fairly new.
Okay.
But I thought it would be interesting to bring because not a lot of people have seen it yet.
Any questions from the audience? There's one over there. We'll just pass the mic over.
Yeah, my question is more with the computer. You say all you need is Ableton and you're off and you're producing, yes, for production, but really going back to the machines is really...
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But I think, here's the thing. I used to have a lot of these, like a lot of the real, like the original equipment. And now I use the equivalent like on the actual, on the Mac, like especially when it comes to like pro audio stuff, like 1176 or like all these compressors and I think the differences are so small you don't actually hear it like after you mix it down nobody goes like in the club like oh I think he used the plugin instead of the like so I really think I live with the hardware. I think it does sound maybe 5% better but I think it's really amazing that we've come this far.
Right, but I still feel it's a lot more, I don't know, more hands-on when you're syncing stuff and you're doing stuff live and so.
I think it depends also on the approach, because I think if you go in and use Ableton with all the stock like presets and all that kind of stuff, it's not very interesting. But I'm always aware of like trying to capture performance. So I'm never really into like just like drawing stuff in or so but like that's the only thing is still like the hands-on faders and sliders that is still
more differences.
I don't like to assign stuff
that's
really
an evening filling discussion to talk about hardware and software. So well maybe you can pass on the mic. There was another question.
I've got two in one for Frank because
Frank.
You do stuff with howling, obviously, and I suppose your Shortline remix is the best example. It's really stereo. And on the dance floor, it's only mono, and the stereo stuff's lost. And when you're writing dance floor music, how much are you thinking about it being in mono? And also, do you use much mid-side processing? Because if you use that purely just on the side processing, it's all lost on mono. So do you use that in your dance music?
Well, actually, I don't think of mid-side processing, to be honest. We always we work with an engineer to do this, so I don't mix down our stuff. And but in general, I think there's like, you know, you have all the beat elements, like, or the stuff that drives it, like the kick drum and maybe the bass and stuff. Then you keep this in the middle, mono. But I'm actually a huge fan of having a lot stereo signals, like having it like even cymbals or whatever on one of the sides and stuff.
But do you ever check in mono as well?
No.
Because if you say you hard pan something left and right, it's completely lost in mono. Like
it is, but I always try to pretend that people who run a club try to have a very nice sound system, and might be a bit stupid, but that's at least my thought. And if you have a nice sound system, then you will hear the signals, but they will probably be on your left side when you're on the dance floor, or behind you or whatever, but they will be there, and that might be an interesting experience. I just saw this video that I think Stimming did this 4D sound thing. I'm very interested in this, for instance, where you have like 4-dimensional sound system in a club. I think that's awesome new thing to check out.
And I suppose if dance music and dancing and mono didn't exist, would you still be writing the same music?
Sorry, I didn't get this question.
If say, dancing and dance, like the whole dance culture of mono didn't exist, would you still be writing the same music, do you think?
Well, personally, I think that music, like a song, will always sound good if it's mono or stereo. Doesn't matter. But like for me, I just enjoy stereo sound. So I think I probably would do the same music, but yeah, I mean,
got 2 ears.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank you.
So this was the modern, the 2014 version, and you bring us the version that was already here about 20 years ago. It was kind of an essential machine.
Almost 20 years. I've been
Hip hop
using
probably wouldn't exist with the MPC, or maybe not in that.
50%.
Yeah, let's say half of it. So you brought us the MPC 3000. It's like the deluxe version, which what makes it so special?
Well, you asked me what's my core piece of equipment in the studio. And basically, I've been writing music since 1991. And I always was more into drum machines. I was really like, my first machine that I bought was an old Yamaha drum machine. And I got the 909 and the 808 and everything. And I heard a lot that people were using the MPC 60, which was the previous model. And when this came out, I really liked the idea of having like a machine where you can load in anything, you know, like drum sounds or disco loops or, you know, like old funk samples or something. So, and also like a big part of this machine, what I've been using it for is with the MIDI out, you can write all your bass lines and everything. So that's a really, really nice thing, like with the swing of the MPC, you know, like playing, you know, like with a MIDI keyboard, whatever, on the Jupiter or Juno 106, you know, your bass lines or your steps or something. And so I was really late with computers and laptops. I started maybe 11 years ago or something. And so I did everything on the MPC. So if you can see that small display, that was really a tough job, like finishing a whole song on the MPC, including samples or maybe doing a remix with vocals and everything. So it was really hard work.
So you use it solely as a sequencer for everything?
Everything, completely. So it was really double the work compared to like Logic or whatever Ableton these days.
But when you're really familiar with the machine, I guess the whole process is much faster for you when you're used to, you know how to use your machine.
Yeah. Back in the days, yeah, but it was a lot of listening back to it because it was on there. It's just numbers. So, for example, if you would have like a disco loop, which is 1 bar, and you want to make it repeat without a break at the end or overlapping at the end. You always have to remember the numbers, or the right digits, and then stop and then try again and stop and try again. So that was hard work, and then people were actually laughing at me for still using the MPC, and they were like, "Oh, it's so much easier in Logic and everything." But for me, because I said it's my core machine, and it created my Ian Pooley sound, so I didn't want to just change for the sake of it.
And you still use it today, even though there are groove patterns in various sequences where that basically emulate that.
Yeah, I just talked to a friend about it before. I always give it a try. When there's new machines coming out and they're saying "Oh, and we're using the famous MPC swing," and I'm never happy. I'm never 100% happy. There's always something off. For example, you can have the MPC swing in Ableton, or you have it in a machine as well, or you have the MPC Renaissance. Basically, whenever I go back to the 3000, I'm the most happy about it. I can work the quickest, and I think the overall sound is really, really good. Even if you just go stereo out, no sub, no extra mix downs and everything. Also because of it being 12-bit,
So how would you explain that device to somebody who's more familiar with Ableton and it's the first time that he sees a piece of equipment like this?
That's really tough. It's like a hybrid between a drum machine, with a live feel, I think Roger Lynn, when he created it, he wanted people to be able to play on pads, also dynamic, and then also having it at the core of your, studio, like what I said before with over MIDI, playing in bass lines or stabs or pads, and then have one swing to it, one feel to it, and the tough job always was that's why I have this stupid extra machine behind there. It didn't have any internal memory, so when you switch it on, there's nothing. So basically, you have to load in samples, or what I do is randomly, I pick out records for my collection and I sample stuff.
But you have a floppy drive with a maximum of 1.44 megabytes.
No, this one was state of the art. This one was 100 megabytes.
Oh wow!
And tough job, really tough job. And
so was it also that you used a lot of floppies and it took you 30 floppies to actually save your sounds, or?
Yeah, and then imagine having vocals and stuff
horrible.
like this. That was really pain in the ass, but that's how it functioned back in the days, and I was so used to it. But these days, what I do is I do all my beats on the MPC still, or bass lines, and then I later just record long takes into Logic, over my mixing desk, maybe 2 or 3 minute takes, and then I just edit up. But I don't use much plugins or anything.
But you can't really go back to the session, so when you switch it off, it's gone.
Yeah, but that's also the beauty of it, I think,
Amazing.
Yeah, you either nail it that moment or you don't, Mm-hmm.
And what's up? You have now a zip drive connected to it, right?
Yeah, it's a zip drive. Like I said back in the days, 100 megabytes, and then you could partition the drive into 5 or 6 parts. So on each part, I would have my samples, but it's tiny of files. And actually, I use this for my live show as well. So sometimes I'd be in this hot environment. I'd really be praying that this zip drive would work. Otherwise I couldn't do my live show. And yeah, lots of fun with it. For
so
sure.
maybe, Matthew just introduced you yesterday that there's an option to put a flash drive in it. So maybe that's going to open up a completely new world.
Yeah, that's a whole new world. Yeah. It doesn't look as cool, but I think it could be a nice option for sure.
Okay, so maybe we should actually go into depth, and you can show us how you work the machine.
Well, this is actually what I'm just gonna put on a pattern, and just first of all play the whole pattern, and then I can show you each individual element in there, so you can have a listen how it just comes together.
Okay, so hold the microphone.
a very typical way of producing a old school Chicago house record, or like Sneak, maybe Sneak or Glenn Underground. He would always use the MPC, and that's all what it's about, you know. And that was you could always assign one sound, like one sample, to this fader here, and I always assign one sound and then the filter. And then when I record the track, I can always change the filter while I'm recording, and that's what a lot of people were doing back in the days. You can also do pitch or length of the sample, and or velocity. But this is one of the cool features that everybody was using. Like, and the filters are really fat as well, so it sounds really great. So I can open up the filter now, so you can hear the difference.
Okay.
Also, you can note that I have like a half a bar loop, and the filter always only changes when there's a first hit. So basically, it doesn't change the filter like you would normally have like all the time. It only changes when you have the hit. So always have to wait. So you can really hear that on old Sneak records here. Like it's always like on every beat it changes instead of like smooth like round. And yeah, I'll put the rest on again.
You load in basically you sample a piece of a record and then you edit it all up and then assign it to the pads.
Basically, that's what I have here. Where is it? The disco sample that I'm looping. And you can choose between different options for the pad. There's also this option. What I'm using on the other disco sample is like. It cuts off when you go off with your finger. So basically, this is another sound I have in there. It's on solo. This is the short one that is played on top, and it gives this extra feel to it, you know, like it's a disco sample, so there's so much stuff behind, there's even a lot of bass behind, you know, but when you put everything on, it sounds really good because there's always something nice, it's like dirty, you know, like a dirty sound. Yeah, totally. So basically when I do beats on my MPC with samples, you know, like I said, I take a random vinyl, and then I put in a bass line as well. It's already enough, you know. I listen to it back and I think like, wow, okay, I don't have to put much more in there anymore, you know.
How do you, I mean, with drum sounds, I think it's easy to imagine because you have the pads and everything, but how would you create a bass line then?
A bass line is basically, the cool thing is that you can constantly override with the overdub function. And what I usually do with bass lines is the best functioning bass lines always in house music are the ones that are really simple. So keep them really repeating like one bar bass lines, and then more work around with maybe play around the filter or maybe with the attack or something. But the more simple they are, the better it works for a track. And like I said before, the swing function makes it really special. You know, when I use the MIDI on Logic and the swing, I never like the swing, it's too intense, you know. And with the MPC, you know, the swing goes between 51 and I don't know, 69%, and it's more subtle, I think.
Okay. And do you quantize your drums as well, or do you believe in that certain offness of the drums?
I play around with it. You know, when you sample sounds, you can you know, you don't see the waveform. Mm-hmm. It's like only digits, so I just listen in, and sometimes it's really nice when you, for example, you sample a shaker or like an open hi-hat to leave some space in front before the actual hit, you know, so it's a bit late all the time. That's something I like. Or like I said, automatically when you sample, for example, like a funk or soul record, the BPM is totally wrong. You know, it's like a 99 BPM or something, and then you use a sound from a funk record in a house track which is 122 BPM. There's some stuff in the background which is always too slow, and that's also a really nice feature that a lot of people use. I don't know, like good example is Matthew Herbert would do this like all the time like this.
So what's the difference in the end between the MPC 3000 and the 2000? Or is it just religion?
It's definitely religion. It's definitely the name Roger Lynn on this one. I think the structure of the menu, the way he designed it, makes it more hands-on for sure. But I have to be fair that I never really used the 2000, you know, because I had this one from the beginning, and I was just more happy with it. But I know a lot of kids use the 2000, and these days it's easier to get for sure. So I could always recommend it. But for me, it's the 3000.
Have you ever tried out Machine or any other products that are
Yes.
very now similar? Or
A Machine I had maybe for 2 weeks. I sold it. Renaissance, I'm sorry, it's collecting dust. I always go back to the 3000. It's, you know, it's like I said before. It created my sound. It sits really right. Also with the 12-bit sampling, like when you have a kick drum, it always sits nice. Or the open hi-hats, when you pitch them down, they always sit like really dirty in the mid. You know, I really like that. And with the new ones, I also think it's too many options. You know, it's too many things you can save or you can change, or I hate having big sound libraries. You know, I think it's more fun if you always go like on the fly, if you sample fresh all the time. So.
Do you have any other sound example that you could play to us?
No, I just have
would
that
that take
pattern.
20 more
Load
floppy
10
disks?
minutes.
Yeah, that goes over the 100 megabytes.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. No, the thing is, it's I just have here the different pet sounds, but I would have to create a new pattern. But maybe I can show you the difference between the two different kinds of swings, because I saved the same pattern in a different kind of swing. So basically, this is the one we had before. Loud enough? And this is kind of more straight, less swing in there. Quite a significant feel to it. One more feature I forgot what I use a lot. You can, while you have a pattern going, you can play on top by pressing down this button timing, correct? And it plays everything in the 16th note, and that's what I use a lot for live shows, or also when I do a long take to record into Logic. I play a lot of stuff on top while I'm recording, so I can show you just for a second. Thank you. what you know, like while you're listening to a loop, you know, like helps you, you know, getting there with the track, you know, like playing stuff on top. A lot of random stuff. I like random stuff, you know, like you do a mistake and like, oh, this is actually not bad.
Yeah, sometimes it's just by the accident that you bump into something
Yeah,
genius.
totally. Yeah.
So, and Theo Parrish was showing us the MPC 2000, and Yannick Quarian, who presented us the MOOC, he also wanted to talk about the 3000. So there must be something about it that's quite special.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, it's a nightmare for upcoming producers to get their head into the machine. You know, like some of them would give up after a couple of weeks. But I think it's really rewarding once you know the machine through and through, you know. For me, it took years to know the machine. There's this function I had now on the clap here, there's a delay. And I didn't know for the first 6 years that it has a delay in there. And I just found it out by chance, like a couple of years later. So, and you know, like it takes time, you know. That's what I always tell people. People are a bit impatient these days, you know, and they want to have releases ready really fast, you know. They want to have something out within a couple of months. But I think it can be really rewarding if you limit yourself to one machine and just like put your head into it, you know, and just work with that one machine for a while.
And it's also an advantage that these machines are actually quite affordable by now. I remember that an MPC 3000 was impossible to get you. There were some for sale in Japan, but they were really super expensive. And now you can get a 2000 or...
it's going up again at the moment,
okay.
which is sad, but
right.
it was quite stable for a while, like 700-800 euros, which I think is really cheap. Back in the days, I think I paid 3,500 Deutschmark, so like 1,500 euros, 1,600. 700-800 euro would be a fair price, you know.
Yeah, that's still quite okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you for that. So we'll
pleasure.
move over far to the right. Frank. Oh, questions. Oh, okay.
No,
question was,
not necessarily. Like what I said before, like this machine has like 4 MIDI outs, so I have loads of synthesizers that I'm programming into the MPC. But also play live on top. I like when it comes to pads or melodies, I like to play a lot live, without MIDI or anything. I'm not going to release this one. Yes, I think these days, you know, if you would be cheeky, you can get away with it easier because there's such a huge amount of releases. But back in the days, I think it was better to clear samples for sure, because you would get trouble with really major lawyers in LA or New York, and that would be a total nightmare, you know. And but basically, for example, if I would think about myself, if somebody would sample me, I don't mind. If it's done in a good way, I don't mind, and I think I take it as a compliment, you know. But some people don't really like it or don't understand it, like especially heroes from the 70s or 60s, 70s. So be careful with that for sure. I don't know if it's really bad. It's like if it's like a EDM track or Eutrance track, I would say you cannot use my music. But if it's somebody I respect, or as a DJ I play his stuff, you know, then I wouldn't mind at all. I think it's a nice compliment for sure.
Any other questions?
I'm saying the limitations on an old machine like this are really what give it the texture and the sound. Like besides the 12-bit and like the lack of sampling time, are there any other limitations you notice in the 3000 that kind of give you more of like, you know?
Yeah, you know, when you pitch down, for example, like a shaker, or you pitch down a hi-hat, I really like the sound of it, the way it pitches it down.
Texture is what you're saying.
Yeah,
like
it's the total texture in there. That's for sure. And the filter, of course, you know, like the filter is really, really nice, you know. I don't know. The MPC 3000 filter.
I understood right, you are using the machine without any laptop or something, and so my question is just, if you are so limited in the drive memory, how do you manage sounds and collect sounds for a track?
I think I mentioned that before, like on each track, when I'm done with my beats, I record them into Logic, like in a long take. So sometimes I just go through the stereo out, but also sometimes it's good to go back. Like for example, if the kick doesn't sit right, I record the kick on the individual output. And when I do a long take, it's like 4 channels at the same time. So basically, then I have what I have in Logic, but the samples on the actual MPC, to go back to the drum sounds, they're gone.
Thank you.
There's one more in the middle.
When you showed the filter, then it was opening on the first beat. Or can you program that?
No, you can't. It's always the filter always changes on the hit of the sample, or like whatever it is. If it's like a kick, it's more accurate because the kick is a short sound. But if you have like a disco sample, it's obviously like 1 bar, half a bar, and you always have to go like this. Or actually, you could go down. It's a bit more fiddly. You could go in the menu and change it in the menu. But I think I like this feature way more because then you can just go play with the pattern, change the pattern, and I usually program like 4 or 5 patterns or variation of the patterns, and I jump between them. And what I showed you before with a repeat function and everything, it's way better with a fader to have everything like this on the same surface.
Perfect. I think we have to move on because otherwise we will only be able to play 2 of your tunes.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, he has a question.
Maybe.
Here we go.
Okay.
Because I actually, even though I make music for quite some time, I never got into this MPC universe. And I was really wondering how you do it with vocals on this. Like, how you sample like short little clips, or?
Yeah. But back, you were limited, of course, obviously. Like, so when you did a remix for somebody like a major act or something, usually you couldn't use so much of the vocal take. But later I got myself an Akai S5000 and I loaded all the vocals in there, but still programmed it into the MPC. So I used to sample via MIDI out, and so the whole sequencing was done here, so complete songs and everything. But this, I think the maximum capacity of stereo sampling is 30 seconds or something.
Doesn't work for a long
new
vocal.
Howling album.
No.
But you could also do everything in mono, then you get double.
Ah. Back to your question. Interesting.
So that's why actually you took a little while between your albums, because it took you a couple of weeks and months to load in all the music.
Maybe, yeah.
Nice. So, Frank, I heard you're covering the topic that I should be responsible for, organs.
Why you? Ah, yeah.
Another bad joke.
Not bad.
Anyways, you
yeah, I'm trying to. I love organs. That's what I have to say, and I think they are the most versatile and underrated instruments in the especially in the house or techno scene, because they don't have like filters and stuff. They have, maybe the kick drum is not that fat and stuff, but the good side is they're super cheap to get sometimes. They have, well, not after this, yeah. Because you are on it already on eBay, right? Yeah. And they do very analog sound, like a real organ has like a pure sine or a pure square wave generator in it. And it's all the time, or almost all the time, it's, how you call that? Super, like all key polyphonic. I don't know what's the name for that. Like when you can touch all the keys and it makes a sound. It's not 16 polyphony or whatever. And yeah, we are again with the limitations. I really love that too, that you don't have all the options at the same time. So this is on the minus side, of course. They are very heavy. They use a lot of space in the studio, and there's basically no one who can repair them if they broke. So if anybody here knows how to repair a Fafisa organ or a Yamaha, please contact me after. I need somebody. But yeah, they're actually, I really love the simplicity of them. And this particular piece was like €80 buy. It has a built-in speaker, which is beautiful if you want to impress your girlfriend. and or boyfriend, of course. And it has a beat section inside, a rhythm section. It has a chord and arpeggio section, which I rarely use, of course, but sometimes it's fun. And it's super light. And yeah, I'm carrying it around with me for a couple of gigs already. Not for the arm gigs, but when I work with Henrik Schwartz for Schwartzman, this is always with us. And the only problem it has, and I think it's a problem of that it's been able to use with battery, that after a while you don't use it, it just switches off automatically. So you're like, oh. And yeah, but I think the best thing I can do is just showing you a little how I would use this, because I'm not a piano virtuoso. Is there a sound coming? Ah, you have to hold on. So I'm not a virtuoso. I can play piano, but I'm not that bad, not that good. And also, this keyboard is, of course, not the best keyboard to be very playing very difficult tunes. So, but it has this very beautiful sound and actually with that it is not a plugin, it's analog. So you can do a lot with the sound. That's like, I think Matthew was talking about this, you know, in the old days you sampled a Fender Rhodes, one chord, and you pitch it down on your sampler. And I'm actually doing this a lot with the organs too, so I just record one, would you mind? Gonna record just I don't know, like a chord like this, and then you see the. Do you see the? No, you don't see the Ableton. That's a shame. Whatever. I'm just gonna loop, let's say, one bar of it, and I'm gonna pitch it down -12, and I'm gonna play around with the transients, so you have things like louder, but already have like something that sounds quite nice, and it's not very often heard, I hope. Then I, for instance, go to this beautiful electric guitar sound. I can like.
You can do a guitar out of it.
No, it's not working. So let's say I'm gonna take just one shot of this because it's a short sound. I'm gonna, let's see, simple things like Ian said works. Put some reverb on it. Needed. So you can also probably double this, play it on a different, it's not very tight, I'm sorry, but Ableton is good in making things tight too. What I also like, by the way, is making different lengths of loops, so you have things that are constantly changing. So, and of course it has a drum machine inside, so I'm gonna use it. It's not the best in the world, but it will do for today. It sounds like, that's disco. Why is it that quiet? So I'm gonna sample this little disco loop solo. And, oh, it's in time. Is it? Not really. But anyway, I'm just gonna use a little pieces of it. So let's say I'm gonna just use. You want to see Ableton? Yes. No, that's a secret. Sorry.
Maybe you can turn the computer.
But then you don't see the organ. Damn it. Shut up. So this is my too short. But then you don't see the organ. The organ is actually the star today. Should be. Sounds tight. Ian, you like that beat? You want to join in?
Very German.
I am German. Of course, you can also tune this down. Immediately have something more interesting. Put a little chorus on it. Maybe have a little EQ to put the kick drum a little bit. There you go. And so on. So you can really do quickly impressive things, I hope, impressive. No, but it's really, you have a lot of nice sounds. Of course, there's an organ sound in it. If I see, that's the power thing. Ah, there you go. And what this thing doesn't have, which I also like, of course, on other organs, is you have these registers to play like, you know, like a. Do you know how an organ looks? So you have like these like 16 foot, 8 foot, 5 1/4 foot, whatever things. You have the overtones of a sine wave, and you can do really interesting, warm sounds with this. And especially if you attach it to delays or distortion things, you can just do so many things with organs. And yeah, the fact still is, if you think of buying, like, I don't know, a Prophet 5, yes, I have one, I'm sorry. But this costs a lot of money, and I mean, speaking about like 2,000-3,000 euros maybe nowadays. If not more. And I'm not saying that the organ does the same thing, but if it comes to just basic sine wave sounds, basic sawtooth sounds, it's just really super versatile, and it is super analog. It's even more analog than any synthesizer you can probably find on the market, because it's just a pure sine generator. So please buy more organs. You can borrow that, yeah.
So we are open for a last round of questions.
If you know somebody who can, I mean, first I need somebody who can repair them, then this guy eventually would be able to build some. I'm not a technical guy, so if there would be somebody, I would, yeah.
Say with Tata Chef, how long, of even all your songs, how long do you spend on writing your chord progressions and thinking about what chords you use?
These things actually happen a lot quite naturally. Just sitting on an organ, or I think with Tati Chef it was. No, it wasn't the organ, but there's a lot of organ inside, and like all the last tunes we released has always organs, always. Like this Sail and I remix we just released a couple of months ago, there was basically only organs inside, except for the kick drum.
And then, is there any chance of you or with Schwartzman collaborating with David August? Because I just think a musicality works well together, or would.
Why not? We are open for collaborations if the people want to. Yeah.
I've got loads more questions if no one else does.
Well, we keep
maybe one last tip if you don't know what organ to buy. I really recommend Yamaha organs. They're still quite cheap. You can get one that has actually a CS80 integrated, which is one of the most expensive synthesizers nowadays and sought after, but it's called D85 or something. They always have not really sexy names, but they're huge. You have like, we're talking about 300 kilograms of weight, and they need space, but they're lovely, and they sound really good.
Thanks, you guys. That was very interesting, don't you think? The next and very last CDR Berlin session will be in December, on December 11th, and that's going to be it with CDR Berlin. So I hope you will all see you back again. And yeah, thanks for coming here.
Thanks for doing this, Dirk.